Bray Wyatt was released by the WWE. People are talking about whether or not he should go to AEW. They really don't know what's next for Bray Wyatt, especially a guy with his type of creativity. And they really don't know how he would fit in AEW. There's a lot of news on where Bray Wyatt might go next. I'm going to tell you guys my prediction and why it's a good thing WWE absolutely released him. Now, with that being said, this is Destination Pro Wrestling. If you guys want to support the channel, drop a like, drop a comment, and make sure you subscribe. Alrighty, guys, The Fiend is no more. It's true. Bray Wyatt was released by WWE. Bray Wyatt, one of the top merchandise sellers in WWE, one of my favorite wrestlers in all of WWE history, and yes, I truly mean that. See, a lot of people didn't like The Fiend. I don't understand why, but that's neither here or there. But here's the thing, WWE made the decision to let him go, and now fans are outraged by this decision, despite the fact that a huge percentage of fans also shit on WWE when Bray Wyatt and The Fiend pretty much survived absolutely every single match. And yeah, so nonetheless, Bray Wyatt was released, and of course, people are starting to talk, just like normal. I've mentioned this a lot of times. People mention, where would Bray Wyatt or another WWE Release superstar go? And of course, the first company that gets brought up is All Elite Wrestling, and rightfully so. 1, AEW has money. 2, they have fan base. 3, they are selling out shows. And 4, AEW is the biggest wrestling company in the world next to WWE. So, if you are somebody like Bray Wyatt who chooses to continue wrestling, you have nowhere else to go other than AEW. And because AEW is a little bit more different than WWE in the sense that the fact that they are TV 14, I think it would be an absolutely wonderful move if Bray Wyatt signed with AEW. Now, I got to be completely transparent with you guys because I've been a big Bray Wyatt fan. But yes, I think it was time for WWE to release him. I'm shocked. Don't get me wrong. But let's just really take a second to think about it. WWE is up to something. Clearly, there is something that's going on right now because they are releasing top guys, especially a guy like Bray Wyatt who continues to move the needle for the company. Bray Wyatt continues to sell merchandise for the company. You know, to let him go, it's a big statement. And I have some ideas as to why they're doing that, and that's going to be for another video, and trust me, you're not going to want to miss that. But when it comes to WWE, WWE is in a very, very interesting situation with their roster. And you guys heard Vince McMahon say it before. He doesn't mind giving talent to AEW. He does not mind releasing them. And I think this is all a big statement being made by Vince. But just like Cody Rhodes, just like many of these other guys who have left WWE, it is time for them to do something different. Bray Wyatt has found ways to be creative every chance he gets, and that is something that a lot of people in the WWE can't say they've been able to do. Bray Wyatt has always found ways to be relevant and be able to tell stories by the ability to talk into the microphone and tell stories. So because he has that ability, why not go to a company that literally gives you the creative freedom to do so? And on top of that, they're doing great with ratings, they're doing great with live attendance, and they're just a great company to watch. I just don't understand why you wouldn't want this to happen. Look, I get it. Bray Wyatt is not a guy that's going to impress you in the ring. But also, what was one of the reasons why people were even impressed by Bray Wyatt to begin with? It was the fact that he was able to talk, something that a lot of people in pro wrestling can't do. And if I have to argue this, I will. There's not a lot of guys in AEW who even come close to Bray Wyatt in terms of creativity and in-ring microphone promo. So, yes, Bray Wyatt going to AEW makes sense. You're probably wondering, why is this even a thing? Well, if you guys didn't know, Bray Wyatt teased the entire internet wrestling community because he posted a photo of him following Tony Khan. Tony Khan is one of the few people that Bray Wyatt follow, and that is massive. Bray Wyatt going to AEW would be intriguing, but also what's more intriguing is this. Bray Wyatt is not going to be the Fiend. The WWE owns the character. WWE owns the name. WWE pretty much owns everything that Bray Wyatt had to do with AEW. But see, here is the biggest misconception. The biggest misconception here is that a lot of people think Bray Wyatt would walk into AEW and literally have nothing for him. No big storylines, no big feuds. And yes, if you want him to go and lead the Dark Order, I can understand why you're thinking that way, but I would not do that. Bray Wyatt has to stand out on his own, and I think that is by Bray Wyatt using his real name. Wyndham Rotunda. It's a very mysterious name, but that's actually his real name. Use it. I think we need to see Bray Wyatt NXT style in AEW. But I also think we need to see different variations of Bray Wyatt, just like we did when he was the Fiend in WWE. But with that being said, it doesn't have to be spooky. It doesn't have to be Halloween. But what it really has to do to really pop and get the attention of fans, it's got to be theatrical. It's got to be dramatic. It's got to be crazy. And there's nobody in the wrestling industry that right now I can tell you I absolutely trust to be able to pull that off. Bray Wyatt going to AEW makes a lot of sense. And if you really want to shake up the wrestling world, I highly suggest that somehow, some way, AEW and New Japan work out a way to get Bray Wyatt in New Japan. That would be massive for New Japan. It would also be massive for Bray Wyatt. And it would be very, very interesting because I'll be the first one to tell you, I would have never guessed that Bray Wyatt would be in a situation that he would be outside of WWE. Now that's, especially when you look at New Japan, there's not a lot of, story-based characters, right? Like, that is something we have to consider. Bray Wyatt can be the guy. Bray Wyatt could be the guy that WWE absolutely regrets letting go. And on top of that, there's always the chance that he can go back. Look, there's been a lot that's been said about Bray Wyatt and whether or not he wants to continue wrestling. There was talks about health issues, mental health, things like that. I don't want to comment on those things, but what I want to do is be very, very blunt when I say this. If Bray Wyatt is able to wrestle and able to appear on TV right now, in 90 days, I highly suggest that Tony Khan makes the signing. I don't give a shit how much money it costs. I don't care about any of these little factors. Let's start bringing some great characters and unique characters to AEW. They have good wrestling. That's already been a known fact. But the one thing that drew people into Bray Wyatt was not the fact that he can wrestle. It was the fact that he can talk. It was the fact that you can do a lot of crazy stuff with a guy whose character has so much unique, mysterious weirdness surrounded it. So, guys, I'm all for it. Bray Wyatt, AEW, I think that is the best way to go about it. Wyndham Rotunda, I want to see split personalities. I want to see different variations of Bray Wyatt we've never seen before. And I do think it's going to be a very emotional moment when that one day Bray Wyatt is in the ring with, everybody from the Dark Order, because obviously there is a little bit of realness associated with that. But guys, WWE did not make a mistake. It was time to move on. WWE has a certain way of running things, and who really gives a shit about it, right? Like, who cares if they keep him? Who cares if they get rid of him? WWE did it. Now let's see him take the brass ring somewhere else. And you know what? I'm all about it. I'm all for it. I truly support it, and I can't wait to see what's next. Guys, my name is Ango. Discord, social media, all those links are down below. If you guys like this video, you guys want more, like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you guys think, and if you guys disagree, tell me. I'm all for it. Let's have that convo.